either by going there or not going there. And the exorcism didn't go there, but when she said don't go, I'm like, I've never heard someone tell a demon not to go. Like, if Simon left me, I'd be like, hallelujah. I wouldn't say, don't go, Simon. I'd be like, up yours, Simon. You know, you're a real jerk. Exactly. Imagine me telling a demon that he's a real jerk and up yours.
And that's what makes this movie, it's such a sad story, because it just shows how alone she is, that she can't realize that he's not good for her. She just wants to not be alone. She doesn't care what that means or what the consequences of it is. She just doesn't want to be alone. It's the saddest story. And then 9 years later, she goes back and she thinks she can get him, and she does all of this again, and he's not there, and she breaks down. It's the saddest freaking story.
That's Emma Roberts is really good in this movie at that ending scene, and I've never seen her be like that. So we liked Megan and I, my wife and I, we really liked Scream Queen season 1. We thought that was really fun. But her performance is completely sassy, kind of spoiled brat type thing. Same in Scream 4. But this one...
And American Horror Story.
Yeah, American Horror Story. And this one is just contemplative and quiet. And when she starts laughing in the bathroom, like, that's not an easy thing to do. That's not... The way she juggled that was just... I don't know. And then, you know what's interesting is this movie never tries to pull wool over your eyes. Like, people are like, you'll never believe the twist. And I'm like, yeah, but I knew what the twist was. I knew.
Yeah, you know it halfway through.
Yeah, and you're just going, like, wait, what? But it's not a twist, though, is it? Like, is it a twist?
I think the twist is the ending, because you don't expect her to do what she does at the end.
Yeah.
I think the end might be, because we don't have... I mean, it's an unhappy ending. It's an extremely sad ending. I think that whole thing might be the only twist in this movie, really. You can argue that, yeah, okay, same person, it's a twist, but it's a little one. It's like, that's just like scriptwriting 101. Mm-hmm. I think the big twist is how they ended. It's not this happy story where she's freed now. She's not free. She doesn't know what the hell. She literally doesn't know. That's why she's wailing at the end. Like, it's that sadness coming out instead of the rage, because she's always bottled up. Katz is like constantly bottled up.
Yeah.
And the only outlet she has is when she goes on these killing sprees. That's the only time we really see her do any aggressive action, really. So that crying at the end, that's another thing as well. Like, how you deal with stuff. Like, yeah, don't get mad, cry. It's better to, like, cry and get it out than lash out and, like, kill people. Wow. And, I mean, kill people metaphorically, because, like I say, you can argue that her killing people is literally pushing them away as well.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, right? So the title originally, and I think in the UK, they actually released it with the original title, but it's on Wiki also, you can see they also call it February. It's very cool, like how Perkins said, he initially wanted it to be February because he thought a time can also be a location. And it's that whole thing where, like if you lost someone, the date is always a thing on the calendar. It's always a month. Like, I lost my dad in November, actually. So this month is always a thing for me. And that's why he did that, because he said, like, time can also be a location. So just like you can go back to a time and it can also be a location. And that makes so much, like, I love that title for this movie. He was like, yeah, the studios didn't like it. It was too, I'm like, it's the perfect, I love it. Like, I want to call it February. I don't want to call it the Blackcoat Sorter anymore. I want to call it February, because I think it's really sums up what this movie is about. That going back to, like, almost like you lost something, you want to go find it again. It's like how we try to deal with these things and how unhealthy it can be. And how sad it can be if you're freaking alone and you think, that's the only place you can find any belonging or love or, I mean.
I wish I would have seen the titles that A24 wanted him to use before they settled, February, then Blackcoat's Daughter, which gets explained from the song in the beginning. But were they like, high school killer or high school demon, high school exorcism witch queens. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because, like, yeah, no, exactly, because he said there was a list and he went through it because nothing was really, like, screaming out to him. I would love to actually see that list of what they wanted to call this thing.
Yeah, it just makes...
3/8 in a boiler room.
Oh, gosh. Oh, dead cold. No.
Yeah, probably.
Lose your head. Oh, gosh. Head of class. All right. So how about this? Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will talk more the Blackcoat's daughter, or head of class, or dead cold.
February.
Or February. February. All right, we'll be right back.
February.
Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks, and we haven't even talked about James Remar and Lauren Holly playing Bill and Linda. We haven't even... I've actually been spending a lot of time with James Remar lately, because we talked about Too Fast, Too Furious recently, and The Warriors. So, the most unbelievable thing about this movie is that someone would be able to kill Ajax from Warriors so easily. He goes down like a real human being would, but...
He goes down fast, yeah.
I mean, I guess a knife to the throat and chest would do that, but I guess I can't speak from experience. But I just had a hard time thinking Ajax would get waxed so quickly. But
Well, it's funny because you say like Ajax. See, when I think James Remar, I can't help. I'm always gonna see him as Dexter's dad. Always, he's Dexter's dad. Like it's hilarious. But I actually thought he did it very well. But I mean, he went down quickly because he was very weak. He was very weak.
Very weak.
But didn't you love the whole thing where he was with Joan in the motel room?
Yes.
And that whole thing, yes.
Where's your wife?
That whole, and that whole thing with, I saw it as a sign, like, that I had to see you and I had to pick you up. And it's like, oh boy, you're in for a thing. I love that whole thing where, because people do that. Oh, this is a sign that I had to like speak to you or do this or do that and help you. And I mean, it's very sad. Like he's obviously dealing with a lot of guilt and now he thinks he can help this girl and that's somehow gonna make him feel less guilty about the fact that his daughter died. It's very sad, but I thought like he really did very well with his character.
And he kind of walks, I was reading some interviews about this and he definitely walks a fine line between being super earnest and kind and a little creepy.
A little lot creepy.
Yeah, a little lot creepy. But then there's also a weird earnestness to him. So it's not, he didn't play it as a super creeper. And then he didn't play it as a super earnester. I don't know if that's a word or not. Who knows? But, right? He walks he walks a fine line. And it's not an easy role to play. And Oz Perkins said that he had a blast with it, which I kind of love. But yeah, and there's an interesting part where he's like, there's no coincidences, which really is interesting to me because he picks up the girl that decapitated his daughter. And so that's a huge coincidence.
That is a huge coincidence.
I mean, but then he's kind of talking about fate and I felt this. And listen, we already know that there's demons and God and exorcisms and there's divine things and there's evil things, quote unquote on both in this world. Not as black and white as that, but there is, seemingly an afterlife if there's a devil and then there's a God. So right, like to put these, I never worried about it and I noticed people get hung up on it like, oh, it's such a coincidence. But I don't know, it feels natural to me. It feels right. And it leads to the laughing scene in the bathroom, which I love. Because she laughs about it. It's a little self-conscious maybe. Like, it's like the Looper time travel scene where Bruce Willis is like, I'm not even going to try to explain it to you because kid, it's time travel. So when she laughs about it, you're let in on the joke. Oh, not even a joke, but you know what I mean. You're let in on the absurdity of it. And so.
Exactly.
It always feels really natural to me. But do you think there are coincidences? Like, is this just a massive coincidence? how did this happen, right? Like, obviously they go on the anniversary of her death, and she's trying to get there on the anniversary of her death. So that makes it a little less random. But
that's the thing. I don't think it's like this major, coincidence, so now it must be a sign, because they're both linked to the actual anniversary of it. I mean, when Joan leaves when she breaks out of the mental hospital after killing the chick whose identity she takes, the first thing she does is she tries to phone someone. So she's literally playing out that little ritual that happened 9 years ago.
Whoa, yeah.
Exactly. So she's doing that whole thing. They're on their way because that's what they do every year. So it's not really a coincidence if you're both tied to the same thing that happened. Well, that's what I think. But I like the fact that they added it, because for me, it again went back to, like, with death and loss and grief, how there's no... you can believe what you want to believe and think and say, but we don't know what happens. We don't. You don't know until you die. You just don't know. That is always that's the horror of dealing with death and going through grief, is that unknown, that not knowing. So I love how this movie does the whole religious stuff. Like, you've got the God and the nuns in the church, and you've got the devil and the Hail Satan that she does, but then also like this randomness. So where does that fit in? Because that's the thing, like, again, the human experience of it's all these things, and we can like say, okay, I am choosing this. This is what I need in my life to stay sane, or, like, deal with things. And someone else can, like, this works for me. But at the end of the day, it's so confusing. And again, Kat or Joan, like the both of them, they're like, they're lost. So they don't know. So all these things are happening. And, like, she thinks, yeah, my answer lies with the devil. But, like, thinking that and he thinks his answer lies with God, and then she kills him, and so he dies, and she's also unhappy. Like, that's just
wow.
Again, what I love about this movie is that it says that there's not this one answer. There's not this. We love going through life and thinking we're so certain of things. We know what's going to happen. We have certainty. This movie takes uncertainty and it demolishes it until only uncertainty remains. And that's why I love this movie. It's so good.
Would you say it's a welcome uncertainty, not a divisive uncertainty? The uncertainty in this movie I love, because I feel like we're asking the right questions. We're not asking...
Exactly. It's real. There's actually a realistic take on it for me. I think it's way more realistic to say, you know what? We don't know how to deal with these things. It's rough. You don't know what to tell people when someone died in their lives. Like, it's tough. It's really tough. And everyone has such a personal experience. You don't know what someone else is going through. You might have gone through the same thing. Doesn't mean the other person did. It's such a personal thing. And I think it's honest to say, you know what? The uncertainty is real. And at least that, instead of everything will be fine, or here's your answer, the answer is God, or the answer is the devil, or the answer... I honestly don't think that should be the response to something that is so absurdly infinite. Like, it's a black hole of we just don't know.
But it gives us just enough to make us happy with that. It's weird. I'm telling, it's a good.
Yeah.
And also, like, that exorcism scene, right? It's so, there's a little bit of yelling in there, but it's pretty relaxed. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, this guy doesn't seem too flummoxed by it. So if you and I were like beginner priests and they're like, hey, Zonnie and Mark, go exorcise these demons. Like, you and I would be pretty... We'd be freaking out, right? We'd be...
Yeah, I'm like, I think we'd be freaking each other out. Yeah. Mark, you do it. No, Svenny, you do it.
Because at that moment, our lives...
I'm not holding the cross. I'm not.
At that moment, our lives are different, right? Because it goes from just practice to, like, maybe a metaphor, or not like, this might happen, or we're just, like, there's been rumors. But then we realize it's real. And this guy walks in there kind of, yeah, there you are. All right, let's do this. Yeah. And then he goes and has lunch. It's... it's like a world where this happens a decent amount because he's so relaxed about it. I mean, it's not being
sense.